So it's a pleasure to be back with you on this panel. If you don't know the Forest Products Association of Canada, it's the national voice of the forest products industry across Canada, in Ottawa and internationally, on things like government and trade and environmental affairs. And we are very close partners with FP Innovations and all the provincial associations and all the product-specific associations. So proud partner of the different associations across Canada. So there you see a list of the people that pay the bills at our office. So if you're part of one of those companies, thank you very much for continuing to send your checks, and rest assured we're doing our best to make sure that your membership dues are well spent to try to advance the issues that are most important to you. So really our job, in collaboration with the communities that we work in across Canada and the different governments that come into play in our operations, is really to balance the environmental and the economic and the social needs of the industry as best we can to enable the industry to be as successful as it can be. Probably the key stat there is the one here at the top here for our HR conversation today. Currently we have 230,000 direct jobs that we supply across Canada, and that takes us through 600 communities right across Canada. Just before we talk about the HR issue specifically, I wanted to give you a sense of what our top overall issues are that are challenging us right now as an association on behalf of our members. First one is access to fiber. So I think while the federal government has very laudable goals when it comes to managing things like species at risk, we have to do this based on sound science. Ideally the federal government actually takes into consideration all the incredible work that the forest products companies do actually in helping to maintain things like caribou right across Canada. So that's the first issue that I highlight for you. I was talking earlier about our 30 by 30 climate change challenge. Obviously when it comes to climate change and the carbon regulations that the government will be implementing, there are lots of opportunities and there are also lots of threats there for us. So our goal is to try to collaborate with the government to make sure that whatever those rules, whatever those regulations ultimately look like, that they are the best possible opportunities for us as an industry. Just en passant, there's a great private members bill sponsored by an NDP member of Parliament, Richard Cannings, that's right now moving its way through the system that I think it's fair to say, without being explicit to wood, I think the way it defines sort of looking for the most environmentally preferable building materials, the ones with the smallest environmental footprint, that wood would do really well if this bill goes ahead in terms of facilitating the use of more wood when it comes to any projects the federal government is building. And that's, I think that's part of the solution to the goals the government has when it comes to climate change. On competitiveness, unfortunately, there are almost too many challenges there right now. The last panel was talking about the transportation one. Clearly it doesn't matter how successful we are at making incredible products. If we can't get them to the marketplace, then we're not going to be doing very well. So that's a critical issue that we're working on in the context of that bill that I mentioned if you were part of the last panel. And back to the infrastructure dollars that the government has available to make sure that we really are thinking 30 years out to what we're going to need, because if we're having trouble getting everything to market right now, imagine what's going to happen another decade or 2 decades or 3 decades. On investment, unfortunately, we're not seeing as much investment in new capacity that we'd like to see in the industry. So we're trying to paint a better picture of that, a clearer picture of that, in hopes of improving that situation. We see investment in sort of keeping up existing capacity, but we'd like to see a lot more investment in new capacity. Aboriginal engagement, of course, as you can imagine, there's lots of Aboriginal folks that live in and around our operations. Whether it's transportation, whether it's human resources, I think we have to find more creative ways to partner with Aboriginal folks to get them more involved in providing solutions to our HR challenges, our transportation challenges, really any and all of our challenges. So that's that one. And then the last one takes us to our focus on HR today, which is our labor shortages. Always interesting when you go to a board meeting to listen to what's at the top of mind for CEOs. I was a bit sort of woken up by one of our CEOs at our last board meeting who made some pretty impassioned statement about some of the labor shortages that are out there. Some of the key issues, and this has already come up in some of the previous discussions today, is we're typically located in very remote locations. That's a huge challenge to recruit people to go out and work in those communities. If you worked in those communities, you know how incredible they are. But we need to figure out a way to do a better job selling the quality of life in those communities. For somebody who really enjoys fishing, you wouldn't have too hard a time convincing me to move to one of those communities. But when you think about the stats we saw in the lunch hour presentation, we need to find a way to maybe get more of those folks living in those urban centers to go out and perhaps achieve a better quality of life for themselves, living in some of the communities where we operate. And that's going to be key to solving our HR challenges, including the jobs that we're going to be looking to fill in the future, whether it's replacing people who are getting older and are leaving the workforce, or some of the newer jobs, hopefully, that we're going to be creating, making newer products, newer forest products. Everyone knows we make fantastic 2x4s and pulp and paper, but what about all the new, bio products that we could be making and all the jobs that hopefully that will create for the industry going forward? I talked briefly already about trying to get more Aboriginals involved as part of the solution to the jobs that we're going to need to fill going forward. We're also really trying to do a much better job in getting more women in the workforce. If you've been to forest management operations or if you've been to mill operations typically, you will know you don't see a lot of women, unfortunately, but we are doing our best. And if you look at our website, you'll see we're really trying to target ourselves to attracting more women to work in the industry. And then also, we're also targeting new Canadians to come and work in our industry. So I won't mention any of the names, but they actually showed up as one of the top groups coming to Canada in the lunchtime presentation. We have communities in certain parts of Canada where those new Canadians, we'll just call them new Canadians, will show up in a community and they'll start working in the local motel or the hotel. But over time, if we're doing a good enough job, we'll actually get them working in a mill because it pays better, and maybe the health benefits are better. So those are the kinds of pivots, those are the kind of transitions I think we need to look at making more of going forward. We've had some success with the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. In Quebec specifically, I know one of our member companies has had some success recently with temporary foreign workers from Morocco. So a bit like in Pierre's example there with Robert Transport, going into foreign countries and looking to bring people over to work in our industry is a pretty appealing idea to me, and I think something we need to do more of. So that's certainly on my list of things to do, is to try to leverage that more. Very quickly about the shortages we have right now. So I think some of the most acute are when it comes to professional positions that we need to fill, and especially for things like foresters and power engineers working in mills. What's interesting about foresters is we've got a lot of foresters working in more sort of non-traditional type, forestry applications, and we need to get more foresters actually out into the forest working as foresters again. So I'm not quite sure how that happened, but maybe it comes back to this point of doing a better job selling the quality of life we have available. I also wanted to quickly tell you from an HR point of view some of the other key issues we're facing. We talked about the truck driver shortage with Robert Transport earlier. This is a very serious challenge for us and other people that rely on trucks to move goods to the marketplace. We've been working on this issue with the Canadian Trucking Alliance. They had an independent consultant do a study, and they've forecast that by 2024 we'll need between 15,000 and 48,000 new drivers. So again, that's not an easy one. They are busy thinking about how they can make that a more attractive occupation. It's something that's going to be really important to try to come up with some more creative solutions to that one, so that we have that tool available when we need it, especially when we're suffering through the second rail freight challenge crisis. Can I say crisis? Crisis in four years. So it's really important that we get creative on that one. So I wanted to show you a few stats. So if you think back to our core number of our direct jobs, it's 230,000 currently. So at the end of next year, we project that we're going to be needing an extra 13,000 people to be hired for the industry. And if you go to 2020 or 2022, it's almost 13,500 people. Now, these stats, I'll give the references here in a minute, all come from our Greenest Workforce website. I'll be very honest with you. Part of me is a little bit skeptical about these numbers, and I'll tell you why. Because if we're talking about things like smart manufacturing, I'm not really sure if we're going to need all these jobs. So we'll have to look out for that. Thanks for the heads up there, guys. But anyhow, these are the forecast numbers. Just really quickly, some examples in some of the provinces. BC, I was a bit surprised actually that BC is actually in the middle of this graph. I thought they would be at the top, but you see Quebec basically with almost 81,000 jobs in our sector projected for going out to 2021. BC just over 64,000, Ontario just over 52,000 jobs that we're forecasting to have. So by province here, and if you go to the Greenest Workforce tool, you can basically roll out all these same statistics for yourself when you get back to the office later this afternoon or tomorrow. And by province, you can do it by region. So here's examples for northern BC, northern Ontario, northern Quebec. We'll roll through them. What you'll notice in each of the cases here is that whether it's in the woodlands part of the business, skilled trades, science and engineering, mill operations, or administration, the numbers are pretty consistent. They're pretty flat with a slight uptick in each one. And you basically see the same trend in all three examples, BC, Ontario, and Quebec. So here's the address to the website, the Greenest Workforce. What are we doing about all these challenges? One of the biggest things we've done is actually put together this website as a place online where people can come, job seekers and employers, and basically meet up and try to ideally meet each other's needs. That's been around since 2013 it was launched. And what you find there is you'll find both labor market information, so you'll see the kind of statistics that we were just looking at in those previous slides, and you'll also see job matching opportunities. So if you're a job seeker, basically you go in, you register, you can register publicly, or you can register privately if you don't want your current employer to find you looking for a new job. And if you're an employer, you can post jobs there. And so the idea is that basically job seekers and people looking to hire people basically meet up in this virtual space. It's open to all primary manufacturing folks, so sawmillers, pulp and paper mills. It's open to all those folks to come and play in this space. So if you don't know about it, please check it out. And if you want to participate and you fit those criteria, we'd be happy to work with you. This is just meant to show you a couple of the things that job seekers can get out of it. You can do pretty tailored searches based on province, based on company if you want, based on position type if you want, and basically once you've established whatever your profile is, you can get notices anytime there are new jobs that come out that fit your characteristics. Thanks. And similarly, here are some of the benefits for employers in terms of the opportunities it affords to you as an employer. So you can automatically receive candidate matches. So anytime a new candidate comes on that registers for a job that you're looking to hire for, you'd get an automatic notice, and then you can go and follow up with them and see if they're the right fit for the job that you're looking to hire. And clearly you can go through and see, basically who's out there, who's available, and then if you're interested in them, you can pursue them for whatever it is you're interested in hiring them from. So just to summarize, you can search the tool by job location, type, and company. Just give you some idea of the recent usage between November 1st, 2017 and January 31st of this year. We had just over 12,000 visitors to the website. We had 80 new job seeker registrations, and we had 125 clicks on the Apply Now clicks to jobs that were on the website. We're partnering with the unions on this effort, so we're clearly not ignoring the importance of their participation in all this. And that's it. Thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it. Are we gonna